It's been brought to our attention that it's also Super Bowl week. So it's a perfect time to bring in ESPN NFL analyst Alex Smith. Alex, let's start with this. Patrick Mahomes was essentially your understudy during his rookie year at Kansas City. We all know what happened. We all know they chose Patrick Mahomes at that point after that year. Andy Reid said this week that you were the ultimate professional on and off the field. What did you see in Mahomes then, and what do you see in Mahomes now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, first off, I don't know what Andy was thinking, picking Patrick over me, but we'll save that for another time. You know, I think the thing that I try to tell people about Patrick is we get caught up in the sidearm passes, the no-look passes, all the improvisation, and it looks like it's a little bit of organized chaos, that it's recess. And there is that element to Patrick's game. But more so, he wins between his ears, and I don't think that gets talked about enough, and especially these last 2 years, right? They lost Tyreek. You know, Kelsey's getting a little older. He doesn't have the weapons, and he's not throwing for 55 touchdowns like he did early on in his career, and he's really had to morph and adapt his game. And so much of what he's doing, especially last year's playoff run and this playoff run, is getting the ball out fast, winning at the line of scrimmage. He's so good at protections. He makes all the calls at the line. They do so many check with me's, getting them into the best play. And he's really figured out a different way to win. Listen, he hasn't had a 1,000-yard rusher or receiver this year. They are the only team that made the playoffs that can say that. And yet they went 15-1, and here they are going for a three-peat. So for me, those traits, the grinder, Patrick, the guy that's in the film room, the junkie film room, that part of him was evident his rookie year, and I think it's shining out, especially these last 2 years.
We're going to ask you to put on a bit of a forecaster hat here because, of course, the Chiefs traded you to Washington, and we're not going to dwell on that. You came back from a gruesome injury. When you watch one of your successors, Jayden Daniels, named today Rookie of the Year in Washington, Alex, what do you see?
It's unprecedented, Mike. It's the greatest rookie season ever, right? It's the hardest position in sports, and he did it like nobody's ever done it. And I think context is important, right? This is an organization, you said it, that I played for. They've gone through some dysfunction the last couple decades. A lot of people have tried to right that ship. And the people that they have in place now, but specifically Jayden, for a young man to come in his first year in the NFL and to go do what he did has just been remarkable. And I'm not going to do it justice with any of my pros here, but I've been so amazed. There's a lot of really athletic players in college, and you wonder how they're going to translate to the NFL. And I think it was very clear early on that Jayden, the speed and the athleticism did translate. But I think the thing that I was most impressed with was the poise, right? The passing from the pocket, under pressure, and we saw that as the season went on. I mean, how many times in clutch situations, late in a game, fourth quarter, when this guy was playing at his best. And you just can't teach that. You can't teach that kind of poise, and this kid has it. And for the rest of that locker room to know that they have a guy, like for that defensive unit to know that they got a guy. Listen, if we just give him one more chance, we get the ball one more time, he's going to go win it for us. And the future obviously is bright. That's saying the least for him in Washington and that entire organization. And I couldn't be happier for that fan base. It's a sleeping giant, and I look forward to what's to come.
We'll go from long-term future to short-term is in Sunday. You have familiarity with the club, the football club that is the Philadelphia Eagles. When you see them as a former quarterback, what do you see that would make you most nervous, Alex? And what do you see that you might be able to exploit, that you would be trying to exploit if you were out there?
Yeah, listen, there are not a lot of weaknesses on this roster, and specifically on this defense, right? This defensive line is absolutely elite at the second level. I mean, Bond is an MVP caliber player on the defensive side of the ball. Burks has stepped in for Nakobe Dean, played so well. And then on the back end, the two rookies that have stepped in and played are really, really mature players. And listen, I was with Vic Fangio for 2 years. The job he has done this year has been unbelievable. He is so talented and so good from an X's and O's standpoint. So the one thing that I think I would target if there's someplace, if I were to pick out a weakness, these two safeties for the Eagles, they're really good players. And the Eagles love to play a shell defense. They play 4 across on the back end. They try to keep everything in front of them. And these guys are really good tacklers. I would love to try to get a matchup, get these guys in a one-on-one situation down the field in coverage. I think those are places you can try to exploit, certainly that Washington took advantage of in their victory over Philadelphia. But the thing that makes me most nervous is, listen, Vic Fangio doesn't have to pressure. He's got 4 guys up front that can really get after the passer. Jalen Carter is an absolute game wrecker, requires a double team almost all the time. And then the guys on the edge are really, really good. Nolan Smith Jr., Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham might be coming back. I mean, listen, they got a Rolodex of defensive linemen that can come in and play. And if you can rush 4 and get pressure, it's a long day for a quarterback.
Well, coming off that, we'll ask you to be short and we'll get you out of here on this. Who are you leaning to? Who are you leaning to?
I'm totally unbiased, Tony. Listen, again, this Philadelphia team, this roster, what Howie Roseman has built it's just a juggernaut. They're so good everywhere. There's not a weak position group on that team. That being said, listen, everything against Kansas City, they still always found a way, right? And that coaching staff, Matt Nagy, Spags, Dave Tobe, the coordinators they have, obviously Andy Reid, and then they got 15. The guy that has always found an edge and found a way to win. And if this game's close in the second half, there's no way I'm counting out Kansas City Chiefs.
It's great. Be true to your school. It's where you came up.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Appreciate you guys.
Join us again. We'd love it. Let's take one last break. Still to come. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander goes for 50
How many?
for the third time in
many?
7 games.
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
50.
Shea. Yeah.
Big. The NFL Players Union reacts to an 18-game season, and Alex Smith joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the second shoe finally dropping in the Jimmy Butler trade. He's off to Golden State with a contract extension he supposedly did not want from them. Golden State gave up 3 players, most notably a former #1 overall pick, Andrew Wiggins. Wilbon, how do you see this playing out for Butler and the Warriors?
Well, Tony, this is confusing because I think the Warriors made themselves better, but I don't know that they're going to pay. Who are they going to pass? Like, part of this is, people say, well, you can't put them on the team. Well, who are you going to take off? So are the Clippers going to sink? Maybe. I don't think the Clippers made themselves better. The Suns certainly didn't make themselves better. And so they're in that glut of teams from 5 through 12. But I think Jimmy Butler out there, and he's got to go into playoff Jimmy mode almost right away, Tony. There's only like 30 and change games left in the season, and we're going to get to the playoffs. Yeah. So him out there with Draymond Green and Steph Curry, and Kuminga stays. This is a big deal. I think they're really talented. I think they can get on a run. Do I see them like catching Oklahoma City and Memphis and Houston? No. Yeah. I'm not sure about Denver. The Lakers have made, we're going to get to them, and made themselves better now. But I think if you get in a series with Butler and Draymond and Stephen Curry, in a series you don't necessarily want to get into it with them if those guys are healthy.
We're on the same track here, though I am a little bit more negative than you. A couple of days ago, we sat here, we were talking about Kevin Durant going to the Warriors, and I said,